Let's finish up this discussion of investing in residential real estate by talking about investing in distressed properties. So, distressed properties are those that are experiencing certain events or circumstances that may result in a sale that wouldn't normally occur or may occur at a price that is unusual. And so there's lots of reasons why a property could become distressed. It could be because the current owner has a mortgage and they can't make the payments. It could be because the property is what we call underwater, where the value of the property is less than the mortgage balance. And so that may cause the owner to not be as excited to hold on to that property and may be willing to walk away. And then it creates a distressed property situation. There could be delinquent property taxes or tax liens, or even liens from the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. There could be a civil judgment, or it could be part of a bankruptcy proceeding or a divorce where the one party or the couple find that they have to liquidate the property per the terms of the divorce, or maybe just one party needs to generate cash, or for whatever reason, they need to change ownership of the property because of this legal proceeding. There could be other liens other than tax liens. So there could be a mechanics lien where someone has done work on the property, they didn't get paid or were not fully paid or satisfied, so they placed a lien against the property. And with a mechanics lien, if that lien is not satisfied, then the person or the entity that places the lien could force that property into foreclosure. And then there just could be other personal debts, or maybe it's part of an estate and they need to settle the estate because the owner has passed away. So there's lots of reasons. We typically think of foreclosure where someone isn't making the payments. Maybe the bank has already taken possession of the property as the most common type of distress, but there's lots of other reasons for a property to be considered a distressed property. So, what we want to talk about, though, are the phases associated with investing in distressed property. So, we've got four, really, to me, three phases, but we'll say three phases and then we'll kind of settle up. So, these three phases are acquisition, holding period, and then provision. So when you buy it, when you hold it, and when you sell it. And so let's talk about what happens in each of these three phases. So in the acquisition phase, the thing to think about is, well, how do I find a distressed property? If I've decided that these may be diamonds in the rough and I can make a lot of money, kind of like in the stock market, where you invest in a fallen angel, some company that's a great company, but they've just fallen on hard times, and so they're selling at a low price. Kind of the same thing here with real estate. So the question again is, how do I find it? Well, lots of sources. One is REO list. So remember I said it could be a situation where the bank has foreclosed on the property and they've taken ownership. And so we call these REO, or real estate owned properties. And so financial institutions will generally create lists of these properties, and they can be accessed upon request. Because you think about it, the financial institution is not in the business of holding on to property. They really would like to turn these over and get their money back. So if you want to find out what property they have and they're sitting on and wanting to get rid of, then you can contact the institutions, and some of them just make them available fairly freely. There's legal research, so you can look at if they're properties that have some sort of a tax lien, or some sort of a legal issue related to them, then you can review legal documents and find out more about those properties, or through the auction process. Um, it, these properties that go into foreclosure are typically auctioned off, we say, on the courthouse steps. And so you can be prepared to purchase property at auction. Or some of those auctions actually now happen online. And so you can access those auction dates and information and participate in those auctions. Now, if you decide to invest in distressed property through the auction process, it's important to understand exactly how this process works, because there are delays between the time that the foreclosure and the sale occur, and because other bidders are going to be bidding against you. So you want to be armed with the best information possible. So the auction process in the United States can be described under three different categories, and those are the lien theory, the title theory, and the modified lien theory. So in the lien theory of mortgages, foreclosures generally require a civil action against the borrower or owner who is in default. With the title theory of mortgages, the title is usually vested in the lender when the mortgage loan is made and reconveyed to the borrower when the loan is repaid. And then with modified lien theory, when a loan is made, the title is invested in an independent third party. So you need to understand what is the procedure in the area where you're looking to invest, so you know who holds the title and with whom you're going to need to negotiate. Generally speaking, you just need to understand how auctions work in the area where you're planning on participating. So, in all three systems, there may be opportunities for borrowers to bring legal action to delay that process, and you need to be aware of those rights of those borrowers as well. And so they could say that the lender did not give them proper notice. They could challenge the provisions in the original agreement, and they could file for bankruptcy and have all the proceedings frozen. So there are lots of ways that borrower could step in and delay the auction process. So you need to make sure that you understand the rights of the borrower in that jurisdiction. In addition to understanding the process and the various rights of borrowers and the potential for delays, you need to be aware of other expenses besides just the expense of purchasing the property. Marketing research costs, in terms of making sure that you understand the value of comparable properties, because you don't want to get caught up in the moment and overbid on a property. Because oftentimes you won't be able to see the property beforehand. So you're going to be bidding based on comparables. You're going to be bidding based on what you can see from the outside. So many of us have seen the shows where people are peeking in windows trying to get a sense for what they're going to get. Sometimes they get lucky, sometimes they're not so lucky. So you want to do as much research as you can to make a good bid. Then, once you have access to the property, you're going to incur cost of inspecting it, because once you can access it, then you want to know exactly what you've gotten yourself into. So you want to inspect the land, the building, the foundation, the drainage, whether or not that building complies with current building code, and if there are any environmental issues like lead paint or asbestos or anything like that. So now let's move on to the holding period phase. In the holding period, you've got some additional outlays. Now, so remember, now you own the property, and I guess you could move some of those inspection costs into the holding period unless you are able to conduct some type of inspection before you actually bid or acquire the property. But again, moving on to the holding period phase, some outlays that you may have are renovation costs, interest or other financial carrying costs, and then property taxes and insurance. Because remember, even though you may be planning on flipping this property and selling it right away, there will be some holding period while you're getting it ready for sale. So you will have some cost related to that phase of your project. And then what about your financing sources? So it really is going to depend on the nature of the property. Are you assuming an outstanding mortgage debt? Are you going to use a personal loan or line of credit? Are you going to use some personal equity or equity that you have from other assets that you own? Are you going to take out a first mortgage on the property, or maybe a first and a second, or maybe a first or a second on other property that you own? Or are you going to take out a home equity credit line on other property? So, you think about people who are just getting started in real estate investment, and they may find that investing in distressed properties is an easy way to get started, and they could use the equity that they have in their current home to finance these purchases, or maybe just to finance the renovation. And they're willing to do that because they're expecting that they're going to sell the property quickly and get that money back. And so they're using their existing home equity basically as seed money. So now let's move on to the disposition phase. So in our disposition phase, we're really talking about an exit strategy, because the only thing that we're trying to do here is just sell the property. And so you really would want to be thinking about this phase throughout the project, because you should be thinking about how much can you sell it for, and making sure that you're not expending more than eventually you're going to get at sale. So you should be thinking about, what's it going to take to sell this property? What am I going to have to put into it? And how much can I afford to put into it and still make a profit?